Follow me one more time to the war-torn hills of Ilium. In the distance, the Achaean army sits at their ships after completing yet another tireless day of conflict. The Trojans huddle, strategizing and praying for another turnaround. But atop the walls of the city, looking down knowing that there was a fated opponent among those Greeks, one man stands alongside his wife and child. He is Priam's son. He is brother of Paris. He is Troy. He is the strongest. He is Hector. But how strong is he? Hector, as I led off the video with, is someone that the entire army of Greek kings that came to save Helen respected and admired. A warrior's warrior, who when faced with insurmountable odds would come out victorious through skill and unbelievable strength. That's right, even his ops were glazing him. And with good reason, for sure. He was the Trojan answer to the most elite among the allied Greek forces that came to Helen's aid. A warrior that whenever he was on the field of battle disheartened his adversaries and killed dozens of soldiers that tried to come face to face with him. The only challenges he faced on the field of battle were Ajax, son of Telamon, whom he stalemated, Diomedes of Argos, who had Athena riding on his shoulder, and Achilles, who when pissed off was only able to be stopped by the gods themselves. So let's get started with his strength. It's conjecture, to be sure, but the stones that Hector picks up and throws casually are described as needing 2 men to lift up and carry them. On the low end, this means these stones weigh about 100 kilograms or 220 pounds, but if these stones were man-sized, 2 meters long by 1 meter wide and 30 centimeters thick or so, like those Ajax is known to throw, whom Hector is equal to and made of sandstone, even though most common in Turkey, Ilium, where the Trojan War takes place, would be marble, they would weigh about 1 ton. And this stone would be flung at about 20 miles per hour. This is being generous. That's 1/3 the typical throw of an Olympic javelin toss, and I'd argue that Hector could at least match those throws. Regardless, the stone would be delivering 39 kilojoules of energy, or approximately wall levels of damage capacity. And even granting him the greater speed of the javelin, saying he can throw these massive stones at the speed he can throw his javelin, it doesn't do much more, it just moves him further into those wall levels of attack potency. It's who he fights, though, that help shape his strength. Ajax, being his equal, scales them in parallel, and thus anything ascribed to Ajax, such as knocking down phalanxes, those great stones that they throw back and forth, fighting off entire armies, can be ascribed to Hector. But what truly is more impressive than that fact is that Hector was the one who put the death blow to Patroclus. Why is that more impressive, Dan? How does Patroclus even account when compared to the likes of Ajax and Achilles? Well, you see, upon being sent to the fields of Ilium from Achilles' tent at the behest of his blanket burritoed best buddy, Patroclus essentially showed up and styled on all of the Trojans. So much so that as he approached the city walls to keep the entire city from being sacked, Apollo had to square up with Patroclus. Now, I'm not saying Apollo was even trying here. In fact, he has several statements to the contrary. But the fact it took Apollo 3 attempts to turn 1 soldier away is a statement enough to Patroclus' power. Now, I will say, even with that fact, the death blow did come after Apollo and another soldier had dazed and stabbed Patroclus in the back. But it was still Hector that laid him low. And considering Hector himself survived and fought with his neck cut open, there is some merit in the fact that this killing blow was a bit more than just a coup de grace. And if nothing else, it solidifies Hector's scaling into those wall levels of attack potency, potentially into small building levels, since again, Patroclus was going to take the city by himself. But now it's time for the main event, the real deal. Hector's own demise at the hands of the raging fury of Achilles. Achilles, much like Patroclus, had stormed forth with the Achaean ships and completely leveled everything and anyone in his way. Entire flanks of the Trojan army were killed. An entire river ran red with blood and bodies, and Hector was just among the conquests to come. Another face, the one Achilles desired the most to slay. Outside of outpacing Achilles several times around the city, there is no direct scaling in competition. So we can't say Hector can actually fight against two rivers simultaneously or be a threat to the gods. So, comfortably, Hector scales into the wall to small building levels of attack potency, from matching the likes of Ajax in combat to being the one that took Patroclus' life, despite Patroclus wearing Achilles' previous armor that is described to protect all except the joint where the head meets the neck. And where did Hector stab Patroclus? Through his armored stomach. His high end would be somewhere around that building level of potency, since Apollo took it upon himself to handle Patroclus, and later Achilles, from sacking Troy, and thus would be far beyond most of the soldiers on the field there. In terms of durability, Hector is a machine. The man has survived with his throat cut open by the edge of a spear. He survived getting crushed by a stone thrown by Ajax, albeit with divine help. He fought for hours with the aforementioned Ajax until darkness fell over the fields of Troy. And the armor he stole from Patroclus furthers this insane durability to the point that even Achilles had to find a loophole to kill him because he couldn't pierce through the armor. Though, again, maybe he just didn't want to, considering he was the one who gave it to his best bud, Patroclus. And maybe he wished to bury his friend in it after all. For Hector's speed, we get both a combat dodging feat, being able to evade a thrown spear from Achilles at short range, and as I said in the Achilles video, and here, a thrown javelin can be between 60 and 70 miles per hour, and Hector managed to get out of the way. And his movement speed is equally superhuman, as he can keep pace and outpace Achilles, who has direct comparison to a horse in his chase with Hector, with the average racehorse having a top speed of over 35 miles per hour, granting running speeds that exceed even the fastest humans in our time. Hector was a man who came not for war, but to defend his brother and his home. The greatest of the Trojans, like many of his Achaean foes, pulled into a conflict because of Paris's actions. Until the end, he fought for Troy and its people, not wanting to see his home, his wife, his child drawn to ruin. Unfortunately, in a time of war when the mighty must clash, ruin is impossible to avoid. Hector scales from wall to small building level in his attack potency, with the durability to at least match it, more so with the armor bestowed from Achilles to Patroclus and then taken by himself, with heart to carry on from grievous wounds and continue for hours on end, carrying the speed of a racehorse and the keen eyes of a warrior that can dodge something traveling twice as fast, a threat on any battlefield in the ancient world. At the end of it all, though, he could stand proud, for among both sides, as the golden age of heroes had faded, he was strong. The strongest of Troy, Hector. Remember, treat me not as though I was some puny boy or woman that cannot fight. I have been long used to the blood and butcheries of battle. I am quick to turn my leathern shield either to the right or left, for this I deem the main thing in battle. I can charge among the chariots and the horsemen, and in hand-to-hand, I can delight the heart of Ares. As always, thanks for watching, stay hydrated, and be good people.